You're in the newsroom on CNN Philippines. Tonight, the Foreign Affairs Department admits rocky relations between the Philippines and Kuwait following the death of Joanna de Mafelis. The Philippines aggressively pushes for joint exploration with China in the South China Sea. And China also hopes for better ties with the Philippines at the onset of the Lunar New Year. Good evening, I'm Sherry Mercado. Joanna de Mafelis, the overseas Filipino worker found dead in a freezer in Kuwait, is home. A heartbreaking scene at the airport as her family saw her body arrive in a box. Outraged by her death, her siblings clamor for justice. AC Nichols has the full story.
A homecoming filled with grief and despair. The siblings of slain domestic worker Joanna de Mafelis wept as they welcomed her home. Her remains arrived at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport before 11 a.m. Friday. It was an emotional scene. Jessica, Joanna's older sister, held onto the box where her sister's body was kept and refused to let go. She couldn't bring herself to speak as she sat down wailing. Joanna's older brother, Jojet, said the family is having a hard time accepting what happened. One of their siblings fainted and was rushed to the hospital when they found out that Joanna had been maltreated and suffered beating from her former employer.
Yun po, sana mahanap na nila po yung pumatay sa kapatid ko po. Malaking kawalan sa inyo si Jessica. Malaking kawalan po siya sa amin po dahil yung mga pangarap niya po yun yung sinasabi niya sa mother ko na kaya po siya umalis po dahil gusto niya matulungan yung mga magulang namin po at saka yung bunso naming kapatid.
The family thanked government officials who have been helping them in this difficult time, but appealed to them to make sure Joanna's killer will be brought to justice. On Saturday, the siblings will fly to Sara, Iloilo, where their parents live. There in their hometown, Joanna will be laid to rest. AC Nichols, CNN Philippines.
A rocky relationship. That's how the Foreign Affairs Department describes the country's ties with Kuwait following the abuse Joanna de Mafelis suffered at the hands of her former employer that eventually led to her death. While Kuwait promises to resolve the case, the Philippine government wants a firm commitment to improve the condition of OFWs in the Gulf state. Our George Cahiles has that story.
Together with the grieving family of Joanna de Mafelis, Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Peter Cayetano received the body of the slain OFW from Kuwait. Cayetano says he spoke with the Kuwaiti ambassador on Thursday to discuss the case of Joanna and the welfare of Filipinos in Kuwait.
I spoke to the Kuwaiti ambassador yesterday and they said outraged ang gobyerno nila. Gagawin nila lahat to bring the accused to justice. But yung kanyang death, it's very tragic, but will also be a rallying point for all of the government agencies to be more aggressive abroad in helping our OFWs be protected.
Cayetano refuses to give updates on the case, particularly on the whereabouts of Joanna's former Lebanese and Syrian employers. But he says Kuwait vowed to do its best to resolve the case.
Totoo din naman siya sabi ng Kuwait na it's not a majority. It's somewhere between 3 to 5% ang may problema sa Kuwait. But remember, people are not statistics eh. Each and every life matters. So, we're going through a rocky period sa ating relationship. But I think there's going to be some firm commitments and some resolutions.
On the Philippine government's part, an investigation is underway on the alleged failure of welfare officers in Kuwait to act on the complaint of Joanna's family. And Cayetano warns, heads will roll. The government will extend all the help to Joanna's family, including cash assistance and even scholarship.
We commiserate with the family, hindi natin mapapalitan ng buhay ni Joanna. But what we usually tell the grieving families is that when an OFW passes away, she or she leaves something behind.
Cayetano says they are working on a memorandum of understanding with the Kuwaiti government to protect the right of OFWs. So far, Kuwait shows positive response to the proposed agreement, which he says must be a firm commitment and not remain as an empty promise. George Riles, CNN Philippines.
Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello says a technical working group is going to Kuwait this month to work out the details of the Memorandum of Understanding. Speaking to CNN Philippines, Bello explains how the agreement will benefit Filipino workers.
Dito magkakaroon ng dagdag provision that will ensure the protection and better treatment of our OFWs. An example, a provision that our OFW's passport must be either retained by them or with our labor attaché. Hindi yung gagaya nangyayari ngayon. Yung mga employer doon, hinahawakan nila yung passport ng ating mga OFW, kaya hawak na hawak nila sa leg ang ating OFW.
When asked if the MOU would eventually lead to the lifting of the OFW deployment ban to Kuwait, Bello says this would depend on the Kuwaiti government's sincerity in implementing the deal. Tourism Secretary Wanda Teo speaks up on what she describes as a malicious report about her travels. Speaking at a press conference in Davao City, Teo denies reports she brought a makeup artist with her on trips. She clarifies the supposed makeup artist who went on foreign and domestic trips with her works for the department. A recent report stated she brought a makeup artist and other utility workers on trips last 2016 and 2017. It cited documents showing tourism employees accompanied her to 7 countries. Teo, however, denies the claims, saying she visited these countries when she was still in the private sector. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque yesterday said President Duterte will ask Teo about the allegation. Roque said while traveling is in line with Teo's functions as Tourism Secretary, she is not exempted from Commission and Audit scrutiny.
So maintindihan naman natin siguro kung bakit maraming biyahe abroad ang Secretary of Tourism, because she has to serve the Philippines as a destination. Pero kung sino yung mga kasama niya, meron din pong guidelines dyan. At yan po'y binubusisi din ng COA. So kung meron pong violation ng pertinent rules and regulations, ilalabas at lalabas po yan ng COA.
More local news later on in the show. First, here are the top stories from around the world. The 19-year-old suspect in the shooting in a Florida high school stands charged of 17 counts of premeditated murder. Nicolas Cruz confessed to police to being the gunman. He was a former student kicked out of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. But as investigation on the crime continues, authorities found out that Cruz had troubling content on his social media accounts. These included a variety of gun and violence-related posts. A law enforcement official told CNN that the Federal Bureau of Investigation had received 2 reports regarding potential threats from the shooter. The Philippines is aggressively pushing for joint oil and gas explorations with China in disputed waters of the South China Sea. The government, however, gives the assurance it will draft a legal framework that respects the Constitution. Claire Yao has the full story.
The Philippines and China may have competing claims in the South China Sea, but they've agreed to push forward exploring disputed waters together. Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Peter Cayetano says both countries came to an agreement during their bilateral meeting Tuesday. The study will focus on possible oil and gas deposits underwater. Cayetano says the joint exploration will not violate the country's sovereignty. Back in 2005, China, Vietnam, and the Philippines also conducted a joint seismic study in the South China Sea, although that undertaking is being opposed in a pending petition before the Supreme Court.
Right now, we have not discussed, and we're not discussing development. We're discussing exploration muna. Because what's the use of the debate whether or not allowed sa Constitution ang joint development kung hindi natin alam ano ang nandyan na pwedeng i-harvest without damaging the environment.
The Foreign Affairs, Energy, and Defense Departments will now draft a legal framework to ensure the joint exploration follows foreign ownership restrictions in the Constitution. Cayetano says the framework should be finalized before June, paving the way for critical projects like the Reed Bank. Natural gas reserves there could supplement the Malampaya supply, which runs out by 2027.
But I did promise the Secretary of Energy na bibilisan namin. Kasi of course, the Secretary of Energy, ang kanyang is yung energy security natin. And given the fact na Malampaya has its limitation, we're really looking for new wells.
The Philippines also raised the issue of militarization during its meeting with China. New photos show runways, hangars, and communication towers on the artificial islands. Cayetano says China built the structures, saying other countries are also setting up their military presence in disputed waters.
Tingin natin, bakit kayo may runway dyan? Kahit naman magkasundo tayo, kung yung ibang countries naglalagay din ng runway, kung yung US, Great Britain nagpapadala din ng Navy, it cannot be resolved by us lang.
As for venom rice, Cayetano says China is only following scientific procedures in naming undersea features it discovered. The Philippines will push through with plans to submit names of their own. The Foreign Affairs Secretary turns tables on critics, saying venom rice was first named by Americans anyway.
So did we file a diplomatic protest sa Amerika? Or did we have to wait for President Duterte to call it Philippine rice?
Claire Yao, CNN Philippines.
A maritime law expert weighs in. Speaking to CNN Philippines, Jay Batong-Bakal says a joint exploration should not be done in disputed areas. Batong-Bakal says
that the area under consideration is supposed to be entirely under Philippine jurisdiction, and it's not supposed to be a disputed area. Reed Bank, according to the Philippines versus China arbitration, is entirely under the jurisdiction of the Philippines. So this is a very different situation from other cases of joint development.
Batong-Bakal adds officials have been pushing for the exploration for more than a year now, but there's still no concrete proposal at this point. House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez once again threatens to cancel the franchise of Cebu Pacific. That is, if the local budget carrier fails to transfer some of its flights from NAIA Terminal 3 in Pasay City to the Clark International Airport in Pampanga. The lawmaker also issued the same threat to other airlines. In an ambush interview in Negros Oriental, Alvarez takes a swipe at Cebu Pacific officials who were asking to extend the deadline set by the government from 45 days to a year.
Paano naman yung welfare ng mga riding public? Hindi nila iniisip yun. Ang iniintindi lang niya, profit. Ang kapal na muka, at the end of the year, ipapublish pa kung ilang bilyon ang kinita. At the expense of the public safety, comfort, and convenience. Tama ba yun? May social responsibility din tayo. Dapat nating gampanan. Hindi yung puro na lang tayo pera, di ba? Kung ano yung kita, ginansya.
Coca-Cola local unions claim the new tax law caused the impending massive layoff at the soft drinks company. In a press conference, they revealed Coca-Cola Philippines will be laying off some 600 employees come March 2nd. The company supposedly told workers it was due to the train law, which increased tax on sugar-sweetened beverages. One of the union leaders disputes the position of the management that the company is reeling from the impact of the new law.
Kung ano yung dinadagdag na tax, ay yun din yung price increase ng Coca-Cola. Ibig sabihin, ipinasa lang po sa consumers.
The Trade Union Congress of the Philippines also says Coca-Cola has the option to cut costs and compete in the market by using domestic sugar, which is cheaper. It fears this is only the start of more layoffs to come. Coca-Cola Philippines has yet to issue a statement on the matter. Good news for motorists. Phoenix Petroleum will adjust its fuel prices effective tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the morning. Gasoline prices will go down by 1 peso and 15 centavos per liter, while diesel prices will be reduced by 1 peso and 30 centavos per liter. The Filipino-Chinese communities across the country are celebrating the first day of the Year of the Earth Dog. Revelries kicked off last night with thousands of people taking part in celebrations in Binondo, Manila. Binondo is the world's oldest Chinatown, established in the 16th century. According to tradition, Chinese Ambassador Zhao Jinhua says the Year of the Dog represents loyalty, sincerity, intelligence, and determination. He hopes the occasion will deepen the relationship between the two countries.
And with loyalty, determination, intelligence, and sincerity, relations between China and the Philippines will get better and better. Ever since President Duterte took office, our bilateral relationships have entered into a new golden era. An era where our friendship will be deepened, our cooperation will be expanded, our people will be getting together and working together to benefit from the cooperation between our two nations.